Hello, I am Dan Wu. You're listening to Unquestionable with your very questionable host, myself, on KZSE Santa Cruz, where, as a non-commercial educational radio station, KZSE supports free expression of ideas. Please be aware that the opinions expressed are those of the speakers or artists only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the UC Regents, KZSE staff, management, or underwriters. We welcome your feedback on our programming. Please direct your comments to the Program Review Committee by calling 831-459-4726 or by email at prc@kzse.org. And my own disclaimer/invitation is that I welcome your feedback and comments almost no matter how ludicrous, within reason, at 831-459-4036, which is the number you can contact us here in the studio. You can also text, but it's always much more fun, whether you're agreeing or disagreeing, to hear your voice on the air and add to the environment. And just a couple of announcements here. But first off, I do have Chairman Valentin Lopez as my guest today, to not lose you before the paperwork. He is the chairman of the Amah Mutsun tribe, which lived before all the homes that are now strewn all over California and coliseums and bank buildings and everything else that's there. They lived in kind of the intersection of Monterey County, San Benito County, Santa Cruz County, and surrounding areas. And we're going to talk about some things going on with that land today. And again, if you want to join that conversation, if you didn't pay attention to the number before and now you're interested, it's 831-459-4036. Of course, I got Do Make Say Think in the background with the theme music. And speaking of music, Soundswell, a project of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries, is a local music collection highlighting Santa Cruz artists in a way that aims to respect and compensate musicians. Visit scmusic.santacruzpl.org to stream and download local music for free, or email virtualservices@santacruzpl.org to find out how to get paid for submitting your music to the collection. And another talk show on KZSE is hosted by Sleepy John Sandich, who has hosted KZSE's call-in talk show Talk About for decades. He covers local issues and people, and he opens the phone lines for you to ask questions live on the air. Talk About with John Sandich airs every Wednesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m., directly after the Pacifica Evening News on KZSE Santa Cruz 88.1 FM. And like I said, I do have Chairman Valentin Lopez in the studio this barely afternoon. Hello, sir. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
And to start everyone off on a very basic footing, because I don't know that many people are aware of a lot of issues to deal with natives in this area. To start you out a little bit where I'm coming from on it, when I was a child and they took us to the Mission at the end of Mission Street here and took us on a field trip of the adobe, buildings in the back and everything, I, until very, very recently, believed that the Ohlone Nation was a more collective thing and that it was like a large tribe called the Ohlone. But now I've learned it was a collection of a lot of smaller tribes that called the larger area kind of the Ohlone Nation area, correct? So the Amah Mutsun was part of that collective, right?
Historically, was never a Ohlone tribe. There's no such thing as Ohlone.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is I was kind of, I had believed all of these things. You got the Ohlone Parkway, you got all these things named after Ohlone, and they tell kids this in school, and that's kind of what I'm starting with, is that I think that's where a lot of people's understanding of it comes from, and it gets amalgamated into this big, just kind of unclear, large image that kind of blankets over a lot of small tribes. What would you first want people to know about the Amah Mutsun tribe that really it makes a distinction or illustrates that point that there were a lot of distinct little tribes in the area?
Well, the true history of California tribes has never been told. Let me tell you where the word Ohlone comes from. The tribe that was at Pescadero was the Ohlone tribe, O-L-J-O-N. And the Spanish referred to those people there from that tribe as the Ohlone people. And pretty soon, the Spanish started referencing all people north of San Francisco, south to Monterey as Ohlone people. And then in 1923, perhaps 1925, Kroeber published the Handbook of California Tribes, where he used the word Ohlone for the first time. And that unfortunately stuck. And our tribe, we want our tribe to be recognized as Mutsun. And we do not, we do not accept the term Ohlone.
And as the chairman of the tribe at this point, what would you like people to know about the current status of the tribe before we get into the issue that you've been speaking, the specific issue you've been speaking a lot about recently? What would you like people to know about, more generally, about the current status of the Mutsun tribe?
Well, our current tribe, Amah Mutsun, Amah means the people of, and Mutsun defines the territory. In the tribe that was in the San Juan Bautista area was the Mutsun tribe, and it represented probably close to 20 tribes of the area who all spoke the Mutsun language. And today our tribe also encompasses the Awaswas tribe, and the Awaswas tribe is a tribe that is that is of the greater Santa Cruz area, and they spoke the Awaswas language, and that was probably about a dozen to 14 different villages in the area. Today, our tribe, what we'd like people to know about us today is that we are still here. We lived underground for many, many years, and it was not safe for us to speak up, and that's what our elders learned from their elders, and that's what they taught us. But in the year 2000, the tribal elders announced that it was time for our tribe to start speaking up for our lands and our territory, because others were doing that, and they were claiming things about our culture and our traditions and our ways that were not true.
And where were you around that time of 2000? Were you already actively involved in tribal activities here, or did you come back to being more involved at that time? And where does your personal history stem from, as far as how far back you've been active in the tribe, or have you been living outside of that environment and system?
Well, our tribe is unique in the sense that we stayed together as a tribe from the closing of the missions. And as a youth, I can tell you that we spent a lot of time living in tents along river streams and creeks and such. And a lot of that was in the Gilroy, Hollister, Trespinos area, working on the ranches of people and doing basically field work. We'd also go to the valleys and do a lot of the vineyard work and also picking cotton. And then in the springtime, our people shared sheep. So growing up, that's what our people did. But our people did that throughout the 1900s up until about like the mid-1960s.
And then what happened?
Well, starting in the mid-50s, probably through the mid-60s, a lot of the lands was being sold for development, and also a lot of the larger ranches and stuff like that were being sold or broken down into ranchettes. So instead of a 100-acre apricot ranch, it would turn into a subdivision of 25-acre parcels that a lot of the people would buy their ranchette and feel that they were living in the country. And that took away the employment opportunity for our people. So the majority of our people at that time ended up moving to the Central Valley as they could no longer afford to to stay in these territories.
And were tribal peoples in the area invited to or able to ever buy any of those ranchettes? Even if they did, even if it was a family in a tribe that had a few bucks sitting around, were they even invited to buy some of those ranchettes and take over ownership of any of those pieces of land during that time period of development?
No. Today, our tribe owns no land. The majority of our people live at or below poverty, and we cannot afford to live in our traditional tribal territory.
And I do, just to invite this listener in, just a little diversion. They were curious, maybe we could model this. It says, what are the other area tribe names? Maybe what are some of the immediate neighbors? Because I know that the what eventually became an incorrectly monolithic name of Ohlone spans a huge area from like below Monterey up to Sacramento. But what maybe are some of the immediate neighbors of the Mutsun, and what were the immediate neighbors of the Mutsun that might not be there anymore?
Well, there are 3 tribes that we recognize in the traditional, what people call Ohlone territories. There's 3 tribes that we recognize as being historic and continuous. That means they've never stopped existing. And those 3 tribes are the Echelon Nation to the south, down to the Carmel area, Carmel-Monterey area, Muwekma to the north, and the Mutsun, from the central part of that territory. There are a lot of other, I'll use the word Ohlone. Like I said, I prefer not to. There are a number of other Ohlone tribes and stuff like that, but they are not historic nor continuous. A lot of them are amalgamations or recently formed or of intertribal membership and or single family tribes.
And so to touch on the issue of, or to let you take it where you want to, to get into the more current issue of why you've been on this new highly engaged speaking campaign, I guess you could call it. What is the current event that you are most wanting to bring awareness to in regards to the lands of the Amah Mutsun? And can you tell us a little bit about Eurystique and how that relates to the current speaking campaign that you have going on?
Yes, thank you for asking for that, and thank you for allowing me to talk about that today. Eurystique, that's a pronunciation.
My bad.
Eurystique is a campaign that we're holding now. Protect Eurystique, and I'm going to spell that. The website name here is Protect Eurystique, JURISTAC.org. Eurystique is the most sacred site of our most sacred site of our ancestors and of our people today. Eurystique translates to the place of the big head, and our big head dances were the most important dances of our ancestors. Our people, we had 4 village sites on Eurystique, and they're, part of their responsibility was to keep the land sacred and to keep the lands pure for ceremony and to please the Creator. Our people lived there for thousands and thousands of years. It could be 10, 12, 14,000 years or more. And if you think of that in terms of generations, that would be our people lived there for 800, 900, and perhaps even 1,000 generations. And if how we think today is that each generation tries to learn more than the previous generation. That's exactly what our people did. For thousands of generations, our people accumulated knowledge of how to take care of our world, regarding the plants, regarding the animals, the rivers, the seasons, etc. And that knowledge be passed on to the next generation. What they learned, most important, was that the spirituality of the land is what was most important. Taking care of the spirituality of the land helped us fulfill our obligation from Creator, and our obligation from Creator is for us to take care of Mother Earth and all living things. And so we wanted to take care of the spirituality, and so we had a lot of prayer and a lot of ceremony for that purpose. And then came the difficult times, the horrible, tragic times of the mission periods. A lot of people think that the missions were established to fulfill, to evangelize in the name of Jesus, and that's why the missions came to California. That could not be the furthest thing from the truth. The reasons that the missions came to California was to fulfill the directive of the papal bulls that were issued in the latter part of the 1450s. There was 4 papal bulls, the first one in 1453 by Pope Alexander VI. And that papal bull said that all indigenous people were pagans, heathens, and savages, that indigenous people have no soul, that indigenous people were the enemies of Christ, that indigenous people were to be put into perpetual slavery, and that the property and the possessions of indigenous people was to be taken from them. That was a directive that triggered and that gave the legitimate and legal and moral authority to destroy the non-Christian indigenous nations of the world. Shortly after those papal bulls were issued, the last papal bull gave the southern hemisphere to Portugal and the northern hemisphere to Spain. Shortly after that, Portugal went down into Africa and started capturing Africans and selling them into slavery around the world. And that was to fulfill the papal bulls. Because they said indigenous people have no soul, they were not selling human beings. They were selling less than human beings.
And then eventually that system reached California, and you're saying that the later 1700s and 1800s activity is rooted and it never stopped from that far back in the 1450s and 1480s and 1490s, once they had boats that could go further and carry out these acts, or as they saw it, commerce.
Yes, they traveled from Africa, then they went to India, and then Indonesia, the Pacific Islands, and then the Americas.
And so as an extension of it, when it reached here in the 1600s and 1700s, because Spanish colonization kind of looped around underneath the English and it arrived in California much earlier, can you talk about where the Amah Mutsun people and other small tribes in the area, where they ended up when their lands were initially appropriated by Spanish colonizers? Can you talk about which missions they ended up living at?
Mm-hmm. Well, the mission system, the Portola expedition was the first expedition that came into California through the land from Mexico north, and that was in 1769. That expedition very specifically was trying to identify locations to establish missions. And they established, and over a period of time, they established, starting in 1769 down in San Diego, they established missions throughout California. Mission Mission Santa Cruz was established in 1791, and Mission San Juan Bautista was established in 1797. I mentioned those two missions because today's Amah Mutsun, we are the descendants of the indigenous peoples that were taken to those two missions.
And then, because I want to get to the current event to let you speak more about that, although this history is very important, one other piece of that to kind of build to what we're talking about, what you've been talking about recently, is the fact that when those missions closed down in the mid-1800s, when California was becoming a state of the United States and the whole Spanish colonial system was breaking down, the Amah Mutsun people went back to Uristoc, and a lot of them died because smallpox ran through the community there. And the California government, as I have read, blocked a treaty that would have given you guys access to that, your ancestors access to that land, and then eventually, as you're saying, 100 years later, is sold off as ranchettes and other things to modern California residents. Have you guys had any access to that land since, as it said in one article, 6 generations ago, so I guess over 100 years? Have you had any say in how that land has been used or any access to that land since that point?
Well, let me just give one more little piece of history. Thank you. The missions. I started by saying that the true history of California Indians has never been told. The missions were brutal, and Mission Santa Cruz was the most brutal of all. Life expectancy at Mission Santa Cruz was less than 2 years. At Mission Santa Cruz, the priest there, Father Quintana, developed a whip. Well, they had a whip that they would whip the Indians with. The Indians were enslaved. The Indians could not leave, and they were treated brutally. Father Quintana got a leather whip and started putting barbs in it like a barbed wire. So whenever they would whip the Indians, they would tear the flesh. The Indians killed Father Quintana. And that's his, so this is the most brutal mission of all. But then the mission period was followed by the Mexican period, and further brutality occurred and slavery occurred during that time. And that was followed by the American period, which included genocide, paying bounties for Indians, indentured servitude laws, which was slavery, legalized kidnapping of children so that they could be sold as sex slaves or be sold for hard labor. That's the history of our tribe. So we were brutally colonized over 3 periods of time. Now back to whenever the missions closed in the 1833s, our people went to Uristoc because they wanted to restore the world that they knew. And they went back there for prayer and ceremony, asking Creator to help them return to their world that they knew and that they wanted to live at. And they stayed there for a period of time. But then, as you said, a smallpox epidemic came and wiped out about 90% of the people, and the remaining people were forced to leave the lands. You talked about the treaties. It's important for people to understand that our tribe actually signed a treaty with the United States government in 1851, and that treaty right there was signed by many California tribes, and the natives, the Indians, were to be placed on 18 reservations, north to south, mostly in Central California, and once that treaty was signed by the natives and by the commissioners sent to negotiate those treaties, they were sent to Washington, D.C. They were sent to Washington, D.C. to be ratified, and the state of California passed a resolution asking the senators and the Senate and the president to not ratify the treaties, and they sent a lobbyist to lobby on behalf of that treaty to not be signed, and the president ordered that it be sealed, that those treaties be sealed for 50 years. So our treaty was never ratified. We were removed from that land until...
And then by the time that the 50 years had passed, the tribe had been dispersed because of the aftermath of the smallpox. So I imagine it was very hard to renew that effort in the early 1900s, given the fact that you guys had been separated from the land at that point, correct?
Well, you say dispersed. Remember, we were a continuous tribe, but we always stayed together, so we didn't break apart as a tribe. But we were removed from our territories.
That's what I mean.
Yes,
not from each other, but
and we lived
illness
underground
and through eviction. you were separated from that land.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we lived in the, as I said, growing up, we lived, most of the we lived in tents and creeks, along creeks and streams, and we avoided contact with people. We had people designated that would go into town to buy the groceries and bring them back, but that's the only contact we had.
And again, I have Amah Mutsun Tribe Chairman Valentin Lopez in. You're listening to Unquestionable. I'm Dan Wu. This is KZSC Santa Cruz. And just to let you know, we are going to get into the current event right now in a couple minutes. The current event going on relating to the Amah Mutsun Tribe and the land of Uristock, which is to the east side of southern Santa Cruz County, the west of San Benito County and Monterey County, all of that intersecting area there. And we're going to talk about why Valentin Lopez has been on such an aggressive speaking campaign about these issues. In just a moment, we're going to have a little announcement, and we'll be back. The number is 831-459-4036. We always welcome your questions, debate points as long as they're somewhat reasonable, and input from the listeners. And thank you for listening to KZSC Santa Cruz. We'll be back after a quick announcement.
This is the concert calendar.
Monday, July 16th, Citizen, Teenage Wrist and More are at the Catalyst for ages 16 and up. Wednesday, July 18th, Bombino, come to the Independent in San Francisco. Yuji Tojo, that exciting guitar dude, is at the Crow's Nest for ages 21 and up. Shades are at the Catalyst. Thursday, July 19th, Bill Kirchen comes to Michael's on Main for ages under 21 with parent-seated show. Honey are at the Catalyst.
For information on these and other upcoming events, visit kzsc.org and click on the calendar tab. This has been the concert calendar only here on community-supported radio, KZSC Santa Cruz. I'm Danny Croft. This is the concert calendar.
And you are listening to KZSC Santa Cruz. Drill that in to your heads a little more. It's Unquestionable. Dan Wu, if you just got in your car, we're speaking with Amah Mutsun Tribe Chairman Valentin Lopez. But first, IU Ventures Friendly Visitor Program needs volunteers of all ages to share time with seniors and residents in assisted living and skilled nursing facilities. Activities may include one-to-one visitor assisting with various group activities. For more information, call the Family Service Agency at 831-459-8917. And come hear where new wave music came from and went to, from those artists that inspired them to those artists that continue to thrive today. Living in the 80s with DJ Danny, Saturdays from 4 to 6 p.m., only here on 88.1 FM, KZSC Santa Cruz, and also on kzsc.org. So not only here, but you can hear it worldwide on kzsc.org. As you can with all of our shows, you can look up playlists. You can look up lists of old guests from this show. There's a lot to be learned there. And we are here on Unquestionable with Amah Mutsun Tribe Chairman Valentin Lopez, and 831-459-4036. You can text in your comments, or really, if you want to be super awesome, you can call in and ask us a question on the air. And the reason really that we went through that history, besides it being very educational and me confessing, I think, my very common belief that the Ohlone Nation was an actual tribe of natives, and so many other misconceptions that are carried by, I would say, well-intentioned people that think that they're educated on the issues. I learned a lot from just pitching a few questions and listening to your answers there, Chairman. And There is a specific issue we're going to get to right now that is the subject of your recent speaking campaign for the last couple of years, and you've been writing articles in newspapers as a guest columnist at times and getting this message out wherever you can. And so I think it's probably an appropriate point at this time to kind of maybe introduce the topic that you've been speaking about a lot as of recent.
Thank you. The topic that currently our tribe has a campaign, and it's called protectyourstock.org. That's our website. What's happening is that our most sacred site, the place, as I said, where our most sacred ceremonies were held at, the place, Eurostock translates to the place of the big head. There's a proposal before the Board of Supervisors in Santa Clara County to do sand and gravel mining of 4 mountains. And they will be our most sacred grounds will be reduced to a big pit in the ground. And so currently we are fighting and trying to get public support to join us in opposing this effort, to ask the Board of Supervisors to not approve their proposal for sand and gravel mining.
And to be clear, the land that, although the land does cover parts of Santa Cruz County and San Benito and Santa Clara County, that the mining project is up to the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors at this point, correct?
That is correct. It is in Santa Clara County. That's where the proposal is.
And what stage is that proposal or approval or rejection, or as many boards or city councils will do, requests for adjustments to the plan? What stage is that at this point?
Currently, the EIR is being developed. But what we ask for EIR is Environmental Impact Report. And that right there is kind of like the first step in the approval process, to talk about what impact will this mine have on the environment, on the culture, on so many other elements of the county governments and stuff. But one of the elements that's part of that is the cultural resources and the tribal concerns. And because this is a very significant piece of location for our tribe, we asked the county for an ethnographic study that would show the cultural ties of Eurostock to the Amah Mutsun. And much to our surprise, they agreed. We were very surprised that they did that. And so that study has been drafted, and we provided comments, a good number of comments back on it. And then once those comments, once those comments are either incorporated, adopted, talked about, whatever, as soon as that is done, then they will be finalizing the environmental impact report and sending it out for review. I believe there's a 60-day review for the environmental impact report. And then they'll start going through the decision-making process before the Planning Commission of Santa Clara County, and it could ultimately go to the County Board of Supervisors.
So they are in the process of the 60-day review period after the EIR was produced at this point.
No, the ethnographic study is being reviewed now. Our comments are being reviewed on the ethnographic study. And once that is done, depending on the results of that review, because we asked for additional review, so depending on the decisions made there, the next step could be additional ethnographic study, or it could be sending out the draft EIR.
Awesome, and I think we have a caller. Caller, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you state your first name and maybe the area you're calling from?
Yeah, my name's Brendan. I'm calling from Santa Cruz.
Awesome. Go ahead.
I think I understand that the Amah Mutsun tribe has a land trust or is associated with a land trust, and I was wondering if the guests can talk about the land trust and what it's doing and the overall history of land trusts and tribes.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Would you like to take that one on?
I'll take that off the air, too.
All right. Thank you so much for the call.
Thank you for the call, Brandon. Our tribe does have the Amah Mutsun Land Trust. And our land trust, the goals of our land trust are to bring back traditional Native Americans, traditional Mutsun stewardship to these lands. A lot of people think that our tribe was nothing, were hunters and gatherers, and we were not hunters and gatherers. We very actively managed and stewarded these lands so that they provided the resources that were needed by all living things, the elk, the bear, the deer, the four-legged, the winged, etc. We took care of the land so that they managed it that way. And so the goal of our land trust is to restore the indigenous knowledge regarding land stewardship and bring it back. We are also part of the Native Land Trust Council. And so there's 37 or 38 tribes as a part of that council. And we work with them to help other tribes develop their land trust as well. So that land trust is very important to our tribe. It's helping us return a lot of our identity as a tribe. It's bringing a lot of healing to our tribal members. It's restoring a lot of our culture. And we have been well received by the community here in Santa Cruz. And we do a lot of work here.
And as I understand, you're chairman of the Land Trust as well, correct?
I'm the president of the board of directors of our land trust.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like you got a lot of titles. I hope people are helping you with that. And that's part of what I wanted to ask you about next. Is that Vern Freeman, who's the head of the company that wants to do this mining project, has stated in quotes to various papers that the studies that they did of the land showed no archaeological evidence or burial sites or other items that would traditionally be used as evidence of reasons to not produce, construction of homes or other development, or in this case, mining. And he's also stated in many instances that he's more than happy to work with you guys on this issue and come to some sort of compromise. Are those statements true on your end, or how have relations been with the Freeman Company that would carry out the mining and is said to expedite permits and things like that for various development projects? That's a lot of their role. How have relations really been on your end with that, and how do you receive the comment that no archaeological or other, burial sites or other items, were they not found, or do you feel like there wasn't enough study, or is that statement true?
Well, that's kind of the issue that we're dealing with now. We're taking a look at Eurostock as a whole. This entire grounds is sacred sacred lands as a whole. And what they're trying to do is say, well, let's just take a look at this mountain, like this little strip of land right here. What ceremony did you hold on this strip of land? And if we can't say, because our history has, there's nothing written, documented, that on that one very specific mountaintop, on that one very specific location, we have a ceremony there, then they're saying, well, then it's not sacred. And so, our argument, or our position and our belief in our traditional ways of looking at this, is that entire Eurostock is sacred, is a sacred site, and it needs to be protected as a whole. The examples I've been using is, if we take a look, to us, Mother Nature, everything around us, the birds, the animals, the water, they're all our relatives. We have the same Father, who is Creator. We have the same Mother, who's Mother Earth. They are our relatives. And if we look at it that way, if Eurostock is our relative, They're saying, well, what piece of this of this relative can we hack off and profit from and still keep you happy? Well, if we have a child, if we hack off an arm or can we hack off a leg, and then that relative is still whole, or should we keep the, it's kind of like that, let's cut the baby in half, and keep it sacred that way. We cannot. It's sacred. It's a relative, and we cannot destroy any inch of it.
And also, on that note, the type of mining openly stated in documents I've read and also quotes from the Freeman organization say that they describe the minerals and the material under the ground there as a rare gift as far as its ability to help in construction and all of these things. But it's openly called sand mining. And to my knowledge, the Marina sand mine that's set to close in 2020 is the last sand mine in the United States, and that it's been banned, but the Marina facility was operating under a legal loophole that allowed it to keep mining sand off of the coastline for another quarter of a century. And if the practice has been banned and the Marina one was the last one, according to every article I've read, how can they call this sand mining and even have the Santa Clara County Board consider it? It seems that would be a clear conflict.
Greed. What's happened here is that Eurostock, which is also known as Sargent Ranch, went into bankruptcy. And the people who, it was a group of investors that bought the property. It's DACA. I can't think of what that acronym stands for. They bought, they I don't know if they actually got the property out of bankruptcy or they worked a deal so that to take it out of bankruptcy. But this organization, this group of investors, what they do is that they're just looking to flip the property. They are not the ones that are going to actually do the mining and stuff like that. What they want to do is to get the permit and then just sell the land again at a 3 or 4 times profit or above the current appraised value.
Because it would then have the permits for the new owner to carry out this hypothetical mining project.
Yes. So all they're trying to do is just flip the property and make a quick buck and move on to the next exploitation of Mother Earth somewhere else.
And I read in one piece, this article, actually, thank you for that. I confirmed what you just said there very quickly. And some have valued the land in dollar amounts at over $700 million. And I also read recently that someone mentioned in the comments under one of your articles, or an article about it, wasn't that land slated for a couple hundred houses a few years ago? And then someone else confirmed, yes, it was. Have you guys or others, because there's other people that are not natives that also care about keeping open lands, especially in the cramped Bay Area. When we see an open land, sometimes we want to keep it that way too. We're not all trying to mine and build houses everywhere. Mm-hmm. How have efforts gone, and have you been involved in efforts previous to this to stop development on this land?
We have opposed all projects on this land, including a housing. There was a proposal to do several golf courses. I think it might have been 3 golf courses with a lot of housing and stuff like that, up to 2,000 units of housing on this property. We definitely opposed that. There was another pseudo tribe who tried to make a deal to bring a native casino there. We opposed that. Our tribe does not support the casino. That's our land trust is our future. And that's what we're doing. There are a lot of other interests here as well. This right here is very sensitive environmental landscape. It's the very southern end of the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it's an important wildlife corridor for animals moving north to south and east to west. And so if we take away the sand and gravel, that provides very important environmental benefits, because that sand it collects a lot of the water. When it rains and stuff like that, it collects the water and feeds the underground storage, water storage underground. And that feeds the springs year-round. And so that makes it and so you have a lot of wildlife there on a year-round basis. By taking the sand and gravel from that mountain,
You just make a sludgy mud pit, essentially.
What will happen is when the rains hit, the water will not be collected. It'll just flow right out the Pajaro River to the ocean, and it'll be gone. And that'll create a difficulty for all wildlife. And
also for the humans in the area as well.
And for the humans as well. And exactly, there's and it's environmentally, there's been a lot of studies and stuff like that. There are a number of really protected animals there, sensitive animals, and there's badgers and owls and deer, etc. There, it's very plentiful, very bountiful there, and it would be a shame to lose that important corridor.
Let me try to get through this one because the text gets broken up backwards here. But this is a listener, Eric. He's actually a friend of mine. I'd say an apt analogy for the dispute about finding is, quote, just because the space is between our history doesn't make it non-essential to that history, just as the space between paragraphs is essential, even though nothing is written there. Do you get anything from that? I don't know. Eric's getting heady on us there, and because this computer breaks up text messages, we love your calls instead at 831-459-4036. Because with your voice, we can make more sense of it. I got tricked into reading a text there. Not really. But I do want to maybe understand that better, Eric, if you can help me out there. I do want to ask also, there have been county board supervisors that have expressed, at least in words, a strong interest in working with you guys as much as possible on this, and have obviously voted down other plans in the past after campaigns have been waged against it, awareness campaigns and such. Quickly, I wanted to ask what you feel the likelihood that this project will either gain permits or be shot down by the board at this point. Mm-hmm. But we only have a few minutes left, and I have a couple more questions for you. So quickly, what do you think the likelihood of that being shot down is?
I honestly don't know. Right now, I think it's I kind of read it as cautiously and carefully read it as a 50-50, meaning that we have to stay on top of it, and we need the public support.
And who is out there doing, you have people out there doing archaeological inspections, at least in areas where you have access to, correct?
Not on Eurostock.
Okay.
We have not, we've had two.
Because you don't have the rights to go on there and inspect it at this point because it's private property that you don't own right now.
That's right. This, as a result of this proposal, we were given 2 visits on the property. But other than that, our tribe, as a tribe, has not been on that land since the 1860s.
So you can only look at the evidence reports that the other inspectors bring back to you, and you can question them on that, but you can't go and verify it in person yourself at this point.
That's correct.
And what would you like in your highest wishes? What would you like to see done with that land? Given that Santa Clara County, most of us think of Santa Clara County as Palo Alto and Silicon Valley and all these things that are super, super developed. This is actually in Santa Clara County, but it's at the southern tip, and there's actually not a lot of development down there right now, and it's being quickly developed because people are looking for housing so far out. And while it's still native land, what would you like to see done with that land?
First of all, we'd like to see the land conserved and protected in perpetuity. Secondly, our tribe, our history, the history of our tribe and all Native people is that our people have been destroyed and dominated. And that includes our culture, our environments, our spirituality, and our humanity. They've all been destroyed and dominated. This is one of the last opportunities that we have to preserve an environment in pretty much the intact condition as well as that could be. And have our people be able to return to that land and to be able to continue the stewardship of the land and protection of the land and to return the spirituality to that land. And not only for the benefit of our tribe, but to show other people how to steward and manage the lands so that it provides clean food, clean air. It provides food plants and medicine plants and basketry plants for the use of our people and for the use of all people.
Now, when you say you had 4 villages there and you weren't hunter-gatherers in the traditional image that people have of completely nomadic people, you did kind of move around and let pieces of the land restore, though, as many tribes did. Am I correct on that? Did you?
No, we had, we had villages there. But what we would do is that we had places where we would go to hunt, places where we would go to gather acorn, go to gather this resource and go to gather that resources. In the summertime, the berries and the seeds and the nuts and the bulbs and other plants such as that. So we would move to collect our resources and stuff like that. But we always returned to the village itself. And what we would like to do is to find a way for our tribe to return to those lands, to restore the sacredness of the land.
And how would you, if you were returned to that land and got to be stewards of it, given the fact that there's not development down there, and we were just talking about the rapid development of the area, is there an inherent contradiction in not wanting certain development there, but then wanting to return to the land to live there? You would need to develop it to an extent for your tribe to live there, correct?
Minimally. I mean, I know that we would want a little impact as possible, perhaps not on that land. There's existing housing nearby, for example. We don't, it doesn't mean that we want to go in and develop, and start putting our houses up there, that we would not do that at all.
And the sand mining proposal at this point is called in their filings, it's called in their quotes about it, it's called a mining and restoration project. Do you find any respite in the fact that they put the word restoration at the end of that? And what does that look like if you mine it and then, say, plant something over the top? Or what do they mean by that, obviously, because you've been in many talks about this, and I'm sure you've heard those words used. How does that play out in your mind, having the word restoration at the end of the mining part?
All that means is they're going to stitch the wound. I mean, if they cut off the arm, they're going to, cauterize and stitch to, and give you a stump right there at the end of your arm and call that good. We cannot allow that to happen.
And can you give out any information you want to contact venues you would like for people to know about, either to contact people involved in it on other ends, if they care to comment or question on those ends, or how to get a hold of your tribe or the land trust?
Well, if people would like to help the Amah Mutsun with this campaign, there's a number of things they can do. They can go to our website, protecturistac, juristac.org, and sign our petition. If they do sign our petition, we ask that they check the box so that we can notify them in the future about how to provide further support for this campaign. They could also post our website on their Facebook and send it to all of the people, email it to all the people in their community, and encourage them to sign the petition and to do the same. They could send letters to the county boards of supervisors and let them know that there's enough destruction and domination of indigenous people has occurred, and it's time to stop it, and it's time to protect sacred lands. Whenever those anthropologists were going through and writing about all indigenous people, they never documented sacred sites, because our spirituality was seen as useless, purpose, and having no purpose whatsoever. And so this is a sacred site, and the indigenous sacred sites must be protected. Also attend public hearings and perhaps donate to our Amah Mutsun Land Trust.
Thank you. And that makes me think we have a minute left, and that makes me think of another question, is that sometimes, is it true that maybe they didn't have an interest in the sacred sites? I'm not like disagreeing with that point at all. But wouldn't it have been smart for natives that felt like, oh my God, these people aren't going to stop at any cost? Maybe they didn't tell them about the sacred sites because they didn't want them to know about them in some cases as well? Maybe the best defense was maybe just staying silent about certain sacred sites at the time, because they would go out of their way to destroy sacred sites in a lot of the Spanish colonial expeditions of, other situations.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If they would have asked us, we probably would not have told them.
And now they'll say, you never told us about this. How do we know it's real?
Mm-hmm. And we say they're not documented because you didn't ask. It depends on how you look at it.
Right. And thank you so much, Chairman Valentin Lopez of the Amah Mutsun tribe and president of the board of the Amah Mutsun Land Trust. This has been Unquestionable. I'm Dan Wu. We'll be back next week on KZSE Santa Cruz. I'm going to find out what happened to Ryan Coonerty, but, as luck would have it, Valentin Lopez was here to save the day, and he was going to be our guest next week, so who knows what's going to happen. I'll shuffle it around, and it all worked out. Thank you so much to the callers, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.